how were your nerves watching that quarterfinal unfold last night? The penalties, I think, obviously the game itself, I wasn't that nervous. I actually thought we would equalize when Switzerland scored. It does feel like we're a team that need a jolt, and there's no doubt we stepped up a gear when Switzerland did put the ball in the back of our net, and we started to get bodies in the box. We started to take risks, and we got the goal back, and I just thought we would go on to win it in normal time. I think in extra time I was a little bit disappointed. I felt we let the game drift and didn't really grab the game by the scruff of the neck. It was almost as if both teams were accepting of the fact that we would play for penalties. But then when you saw the penalties being taken, maybe you could see why. I used to think that when I played for England and I got knocked out for England a few times in penalty shootouts that we were unlucky. But when I look at the preparation, the work that these lads have done, the quality of the penalties under extreme pressure, we now know it's an art form and the penalties were of really high quality, and that's where the real excitement in the game for fans watching YouTube. But for us as English fans, we're sort of damaged by past experiences. It's heartening and brilliant when we win that way because of the bad experiences we've had in the past, and that's where it was extremely nervy. I just feel nervy at that time on a personal level for the players that miss. I've seen some players miss, and some of those players in that squad have missed and received a lot of criticism. You've got one up on your screen there, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's had a couple of weeks that have been quite rough. Ivan Toney stepping up in his first tournament, and Cole Palmer, Jude Bellingham, no age whatsoever, he's so young. And then obviously Bukayo Saka, who was racially abused and abused in general just after the Euro 2020 tournament. So all those 5 lads, it meant something to them in different ways, and seeing Saka's smile after he took his penalty was a wonderful moment. Hi Gary, I think we'll analyze the formation change in a bit more detail shortly, but let's keep on going with the penalties. It was almost like yesterday, a lot of people I speak to felt very confident going into those penalties. Does it feel as though, and it's the first time England have scored 5 out of 5, by the way, at a major tournament in terms of penalties, does it feel now that that fear has completely gone? I mean, look, I don't think the fear ever goes to those lads that are stepping up, but there's no doubt they're in a better place than we have been as a country in the past. You've got to remember we lost on penalties a few years ago in the 2020 final, but the goalkeeper, Donnarumma from Italy, he's a huge man and basically filled the goal, and it was difficult for our lads, and obviously we didn't get over the line in that one. But what you can see is that there is a clear plan of who's going to take them, a clear plan for the goalkeeper on which way he's going to dive. I know that's not new, but everything's very well thought out. One thing I did recognize during my career was this idea that what you need is people on the pitch who have actually been in that position before and take penalties naturally. And that's what we had yesterday. We had 5 lads stepping up who naturally in their lives have been comfortable taking that spot kick. Now, I know it's an added pressure of being in a tournament and playing for England in quarter-final, but the reality of it is, if you've got that repetitive sort of experience that you've had before, it definitely helps. There were times when we played for England where there were lads who were stepping up, who'd probably not taken a penalty probably for 15 years since they were a kid. Brilliant. Every single one of those penalties, Gary, was clinically dispatched, but Ivan Toney's no-look shot, what on earth was he doing? What did you make of that technique? It was just absolutely phenomenal. And he said after the match, he was so matter-of-fact about it, he just said, well, that's just my process. Yeah, I mean, it's what he does. Obviously, we know what he does. We've seen it enough times. He's only missed 1 penalty, I think, for Brentford. And him coming onto the pitch, you'd normally say Harry Kane going off would be a blow. But the fact that he came on, obviously, it softens that blow because he's such a wonderful penalty taker. It's an amazing sight when you actually freeze frame his eyes just as he's about to kick the ball. And you see him staring forward like that. Not many times I've seen an image like that on a football pitch. I know Eric Cantona, I used to play with at United, used to have a sort of way where he would look at the keeper as he was about to take it, but not in the same way as Ivan Toney does. It's a quite unique style. Yeah, it's mesmerizing really how he does it. Well, that was the good, wasn't it? And it was ultimately a win. But let's have a look at the 120 minutes overall as well. It was another difficult day for England. Gary called on Southgate to make changes. He went with 3 at the back. Did it work? I thought it was better. I did think it was better. Actually, since Gareth took over, the times that we have played 3 at the back, I've actually always liked us playing that way. I've always felt that, for some reason, we've had a better balance and that the actual team suits it. It's a bit more fluid. I felt there was a bit more of a relaxed nature in the football, particularly in the first half. I thought we went back a little bit in the second half, sort of playing around and recycling the balls safely again. I thought in the first half we played some half-decent stuff. Extra time, we just decided, I think, between the two teams, they were very safe, very cautious. They were very tired, probably, as well. And that part of the game was one where we didn't grab the game by the scruff of the neck. There was no tempo in it. Look, what you cannot deny about this team is that they've got tournament know-how. They get to the semi-finals, that little bit of good fortune along the way with the draw. We've played Denmark, Serbia, Slovenia, Slovakia, and Switzerland. If you said that you were going to get those 5 teams in a major tournament, you'd be very, very happy at any of the major teams. And we haven't played at our best. But it's a tournament that seems to be moving that way, whereby Spain have played some really fantastic football. But apart from that, the other teams are being quite, yeah, I suppose in some ways unspectacular. But getting through, I mean, the 4 teams in this, the Dutch, France, who are obviously the tournament favorites, have not been at their best either. I said before the game, I do believe in performance. I genuinely do. I always have done. I think that you can get away with not winning when you're playing at your best. So long. And I've thought that basically that's a good sign for teams that go on and win leagues, or go on and win titles, or go on and win titles, or go on and win trophies. Have to get through difficult matches, whether it be on penalties, whether it be last-minute equalizers. These are moments that you have to get through as a football player to win trophies. But you can't normally fall back upon that and rely upon that all the time. And my gut feeling is, or my feeling has always been, that you'll get caught out eventually if you don't step up your performance level. Now, yesterday was definitely the best we looked in terms of our balance. So it was a progression forward, and now we'll have to step up again against Holland on Wednesday, and we'll have to step up quite a bit because they've got some serious players, Holland. So yeah, I think there's still that element of, are we going to get caught out? Are our performance levels good enough? But then there's now a part of you when you're in a semi-final and you're only 2 games away from what would be absolute utopia, that, canning them go all the way, playing the way they are, being as resilient as they are, and actually having that little bit of tournament know-how and patience and composure that they seem to have, even if things aren't going their way. Gareth Southgate again has some big decisions to make, doesn't he? Not least when it comes to the captain, Harry Kane, who seemed to struggle again yesterday. Just 4 touches in the opposition box. He was dropping deep. Would you stick with him if you were Southgate? Or is it time for a change? Gareth will stick with him. I think that we've called for changes. Many of us have called for changes. I mean, I think changing the shape was quite a significant moment, obviously, before this game. So I don't think you can say that Gareth hasn't made changes. When you have to change your shape, or you do change your shape for an appointment, that's quite a big move. So he was brave enough to do that, and he's done it before. He's not going to drop Harry Kane. Harry Kane is one of his leaders. He's one of the greatest England football players that we've ever had. There's no doubt that he's not been his absolute best in this tournament, but neither of the teams. The service interim isn't great. I'm not quite sure where this Harry Kane dropping deep sort of line comes from. So I know where it comes from. It's been there for 5, 6, 7 years, watching him play football. I mean, I don't see any difference, really, in what he's been doing recently in his football matches for his clubs. So this idea that all of a sudden Harry Kane drops deep, it's partly what I would expect him to do. He's to sort of stay high in between those 2 centre-backs and then just drop in a little bit to try and sort of draw some of those centre-backs in to allow the runs to go back in behind. So that's what he's been doing for years. But in terms of the actual form, he doesn't look himself. He doesn't look as sharp when the ball's played into him and around the box. He doesn't seem to be able to get. He's touching his shirt off like he ordinarily would do, but he isn't going to be dropped. He's going to be, unless he's injured, obviously, which he went off yesterday. He actually, before that incident where he fell into Gareth Southgate into the actual dugout, I thought I saw him sort of limping. Maybe it was cramp in the middle of the pitch. So I think there was an issue with him. If that stopped him playing, or there was a calf muscle injury or something like that we've not probably heard about, then I'd say obviously that will be a problem. But it would need that for him to be left out of this team.